AITA for changing the security codes on our shared family cabin after catching my sister listing my personal bedroom on Airbnb without my consent. The air up at Echo Lake has a distinct scent: crisp pine, damp earth, and the sharp, clean chill of mountain water. For 3 generations, our family cabin has been our sanctuary. My grandfather built the original structure with his own hands in the late 1960s, and 5 years ago, when my parents passed, they left the property jointly to my sister, Chloe, and me. It was meant to be a shared legacy, a quiet escape from our frantic city lives, where we could bring our own families to rest and recharge. But yesterday morning, that crisp mountain air felt entirely suffocating. I stood on the wraparound cedar porch, my phone buzzing violently in my palm, looking at an electronic smart lock that I had just forcefully recoded, while the realization of a massive, systematic betrayal washed over me. To understand how our family sanctuary became a commercial crime scene, you have to understand the operational agreement Chloe and I signed when we inherited the place. Because I am a project manager with a steady corporate salary and a penchant for organization, I took over the physical and financial maintenance of the cabin. I personally pay 70% of the annual property taxes, handle the winterization contracts, and funded a complete $35,000 structural renovation out of my own pocket last summer. Chloe, who runs a volatile, trendy digital wellness coaching brand and is perpetually in a state of financial fluidness, contributes a smaller monthly fee for utility costs. Our contract was explicit, simple, and rooted in respect. The cabin was strictly for personal family use. No third-party guests, no subletting, and absolutely no commercial activity. Most importantly, the property features 2 master suites. The lakeside bedroom belongs permanently to me, containing my personal belongings, custom-made furniture, heirloom jewelry from our grandmother, and my private journals. Chloe has the forest side suite, decorated precisely to her taste. When either of us isn't there, our respective bedroom doors are kept locked. 3 weeks ago, I noticed a strange pattern in our shared utility bills. The water and electricity usage for the previous month had skyrocketed to levels that made absolutely no sense for a cabin that was supposedly sitting vacant. I called Chloe to ask if she'd been spending extra time up there. "Oh, yeah, sweetie," she had laughed over the phone, her voice carrying that breezy, dismissive tone she uses whenever she's hiding something. "I've just been doing some solo creative retreats, working on my new digital course. You know how the mountain air helps my alignment. I must have left the hot tub heating a few times. Don't worry about it. I trusted her. She was my sister after all." Then came yesterday morning. My husband and I decided to take a spontaneous Tuesday drive up to the lake to drop off some new deck chairs before the heavy summer season started. We didn't text Chloe because we knew the cabin was vacant for the week according to our shared calendar. When we pulled into the gravel driveway, my heart dropped into my stomach. There was a generic silver rental sedan parked in our spot. The front door of the cabin was wide open, and the sound of unfamiliar indie pop music was drifting out across the deck as I stepped over the threshold. The smell of cheap lavender linen spray hit my nose, completely masking the natural pine scent of the house. Sitting at our antique breakfast bar was a couple in their mid-20s, drinking coffee out of my grandfather's hand-painted mugs. "Oh, hi," the woman said, looking up with a cheerful, entirely relaxed smile. "Are you guys the cleaning service?" The listing said checkout wasn't until 11:00 a.m., but we're almost packed up. I froze, my hand gripping the door frame so hard my knuckles turned white. "I'm sorry. What listing?" "The Echo Lake Eco Wellness Sanctuary on Airbnb," the man replied, pulling up his phone and spinning the screen around to face me. "We booked the lakeside premium suite for the 4-day weekend. It's a gorgeous room, by the way. The private balcony view is incredible." I stared at the screen. There, under an account named Chloe's Curated Escapes, was a verified 5-star listing for my family cabin. The primary photo advertising the property wasn't the lake or the living room. It was a professional, brightly lit photograph of my private bedroom. My vision literally blurred as I scrolled through the digital listing on the guest's phone. Chloe hadn't just allowed a couple of friends to stay at the cabin. She had turned my grandfather's legacy into a highly commercialized, high-volume boutique hotel. The listing had over 45 historical reviews dating back 9 months. She was charging $320 a night for the premium lakeside experience, advertising the custom linen sheets I had bought, the private hot tub I had funded, and worst of all, the absolute privacy of a locked master suite. To bypass the locked door, Chloe had simply used the master emergency key we keep in the kitchen safe, opened my private bedroom, stripped my personal quilts, and replaced them with cheap commercial hospitality bedding. She was letting random internet strangers sleep in my bed, use my private bathroom, and sift through a room containing my most vulnerable personal belongings, all while pocketing thousands of dollars in pure, untaxed cash under the table. I managed to keep my voice completely flat as I looked at the young couple. "I am the co-owner of this property. My sister listed this room illegally without my knowledge or consent. You need to pack your bags and vacate this structure in 10 minutes, or I am calling the county sheriff for criminal trespassing." The couple panicked, realizing they had walked into a massive family legal minefield. They threw their luggage into their bags and practically ran out to their rental car, apologizing profusely as they backed out of the driveway. The moment their car cleared the gravel, the survivalist focus took over. I marched to the front door and pulled up the smart lock application on my phone. Because I paid for the security infrastructure, my phone held the master administrator account. I instantly wiped Chloe's access profile, deleted her personalized entry code, and changed the master security PIN to a completely random, unguessable 8-digit digit sequence. Next, I walked into my bedroom. The cheap lavender spray smelled like an insult. I stripped the commercial sheets off my bed, threw them into a trash bag, and spent 3 hours scrubbing every surface with bleach, my chest heaving with a mixture of rage and profound betrayal. At 1:30 p.m., my phone finally detonated. Chloe had received a notification from the Airbnb platform that her guests had submitted an emergency cancellation and requested a full refund due to a hostile owner. Confrontation. Clara, what the hell did you just do? Chloe screamed the second I answered, her voice completely stripped of her usual Zen wellness persona. My guests just called me in hysterics. They said you threatened them with the police? You just ruined a $2,200 booking, and Airbnb is threatening to suspension my entire hosting portfolio. You don't have a hosting portfolio at this cabin anymore, Chloe, I said, my voice eerily calm as I stood on the deck, looking out at the water. I just changed the smart lock codes. Your access is completely revoked. Your listing has been flagged for fraudulent property representation. And if I ever see another stranger on this deck, I am filing a formal lawsuit for breach of our co-ownership contract. Are you insane? She shrieked, her voice cracking with fury. You can't lock me out of my own cabin. My name is on the deed just like yours. I have a right to use that property however I want. I am in a massive financial hole with my business right now, Clara. That Airbnb income is the only thing paying my rent in the city. You are destroying my livelihood out of sheer vindictive jealousy. You opened my private bedroom door, Chloe, I hissed, the calm finally breaking, revealing the raw anger underneath. You let strangers sleep in my bed. You used my grandfather's house as a cash cow while I paid the taxes and the renovations. We had a signed agreement. You violated it, you violated my privacy, and you are done. The phone line went dead as she slammed it down. But I knew this was just the opening salvo. Chloe wasn't the type to face reality quietly. Within 2 hours, she did exactly what she always does when her financial schemes are exposed. She ran straight to our extended family to construct an alternate reality. By 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon, the digital execution began. My phone was a constant wall of vibrations. My mother's sisters, Aunt Sarah and Aunt Linda, along with a wave of my cousins, began hitting my line with a coordinated barrage of messages. Chloe had posted a tearful video to her private family social media circle, claiming that her wealthy, corporate sister was using a minor key disagreement to completely lock her out of her family inheritance during a financial emergency. Clara, please tell me you haven't lost your mind, Aunt Sarah said the moment I finally picked up her third consecutive call. Chloe is in absolute pieces. She says she's facing eviction from her city apartment, and she was just using her half of the cabin to stay afloat. You can't just change the locks on your own sister, Clara. That cabin belongs to the whole family history. Did Chloe tell you she was renting out my personal bedroom, Aunt Sarah? I asked, my voice dropping into an icy register. Did she tell you she opened my locked door, stripped my personal belongings, and let over 40 random internet strangers sleep in my bed over the last 9 months without giving me a single dollar or a single warning? There was a long, uncomfortable pause on the other end of the line. Well, no. She said she was just letting some executive clients use the guest suite for wellness retreats. But even if she made a mistake, Clara, she's family. You don't involve lawyers and police over a roommate dispute. You're being incredibly cold. Your mother would be heartbroken to see you two fighting over property. My mother would be heartbroken to see her daughter running an illegal hotel out of a historic family asset. I countered, my grip tightening on the phone. The locks stay changed. If Chloe wants to use her designated personal weeks according to our calendar, she can request a temporary code from me, but she will never have administrative access to this property again. The family pressure didn't stop with phone calls. At 7 o'clock last night, the conflict arrived on my doorstep in the city. I looked at my front porch security camera and saw Chloe standing there, flanked by her boyfriend Marcus, a man who has never held a steady job but always seems to have an opinion on everyone else's finances. Chloe wasn't crying anymore. Her face was set in a mask of aggressive, desperate entitlement. I opened the door, keeping the safety chain engaged. You have 5 minutes, Chloe. Say what you came to say and get off my porch. Open the door, Clara, Marcus barked, stepping forward in an attempt to look intimidating. You're acting like a dictator. Chloe has 50% ownership of that lake asset. You changing those codes is an illegal lockout. We've already spoken to a real estate attorney, and if you don't hand over the new master pin right now, we are filing for a court-ordered partition sale to force the liquidation of the entire property. My stomach did a violent flip. A partition sale? It was the ultimate nuclear option in property disputes. If a co-owner can prove the relationship has become entirely dysfunctional, a judge can force the sale of the asset on the open market and split the cash, completely destroying our grandfather's legacy and ensuring the cabin would be torn down by some developer to build a modern mega mansion. Chloe stepped into the light, her eyes narrowing as she saw the flash of concern on my face. That's right, Clara, she whispered, her voice sharp and transactional. You want to play corporate hardball? Let's play. You either give me back full master access so I can fulfill my upcoming summer Airbnb bookings, or I will force the sale of that cabin. Let's see how much your precious pride is worth when the whole place gets bulldozed. The threat hung in the cool evening air like a cloud of poison. Marcus stood there with a smug, arrogant grin, fully believing they had found the legal silver bullet to force my compliance. They thought the emotional weight of my grandfather's legacy would make me cave, that I would willingly hand over the keys and let them continue to abuse the property just to preserve the physical structure. They completely underestimated who they were dealing with. A partition sale? I repeated. repeated, my voice dropping into a flat, level tone that completely erased the panic they were looking for. I unlatched the safety chain and stepped out onto the porch, closing the front door behind me. You want to stand on my property and threaten me with forced liquidation to cover your business debts, Chloe? It's not a threat, it's a reality, Chloe snapped, crossing her arms. I need $4,000 a month to maintain my office lease in the city, and that cabin is my cash flow. You either let me host, or we sell the whole thing and split the equity. Either way, I get my money. Then let's talk about equity, I said, pulling my phone from my pocket and opening my cloud drive. Marcus, since you brought a real estate attorney into this, I assume he explained how a court-ordered partition accounting works? Because a judge doesn't just split the sale price 50-50 down the middle when one owner has been committing fraud. Marcus blinked, his arrogant smile faltering slightly. Over the last 5 years, I continued, reading directly from the audited ledger I had spent the afternoon compiling with my husband, I have personally paid $42,000 in property taxes, structural insurance, and lake association fees. I have receipts for $35,000 in foundation repairs and cedar restoration that I funded entirely alone. Chloe, your total financial contribution to this asset over 5 years is exactly $2,400 in minor electric bills. That doesn't matter, Chloe yelled, her face flushing red under the porch light. The deed says joint tenancy. Inheritance means it's half mine. Inheritance means you own a share of the title, but court-ordered liquidation requires a full financial reconciliation, I said, stepping closer to her. Under state law, when a partition sale is ordered, the investing partner is fully credited for all capital improvements and maintenance costs before the net proceeds are divided. Furthermore, you have actively run an illegal commercial business out of a residentially zoned family asset. I have downloaded your complete Airbnb history, all 45 reviews, the pricing metrics, and the historical data. You have cleared roughly $28,000 in undeclared revenue using my private room. I turned the screen of my phone around, showing them a draft of a formal counterclaim document that my real estate lawyer had already prepared late that afternoon. If you file for a partition sale, Chloe, my attorney, will instantly file a countersuit for breach of contract, unjust enrichment, and financial conversion of shared property. We will present the judge with the full audit of your rental earnings, alongside a claim for full restitution of the wear and tear damages to my private suite. By the time the court subtracts my $77,000 in documented capital maintenance and your illegal rental revenue from your half of the equity, you won't just walk away with nothing. You will owe me a 5-figure check just to settle the court costs. Marcus looked at the draft document, his legal bluff completely shattered by a wall of forensic data. He looked at Chloe, his jaw dropping slightly as he realized they had just brought a knife to a drone fight. Clara, please, Chloe whispered, her voice suddenly dropping its aggressive tone, shifting instantly back into a desperate, high-pitched plea as the financial reality of her position crushed her arrogance. You can't do this to me. I'm your sister. You stopped being my sister the moment you unlocked my bedroom door to make a quick buck off a stranger, I said, opening my front door and stepping back inside. The locks remain changed. You have until midnight to take that listing off the internet permanently. If I see it active tomorrow morning, the lawsuit is filed, the family group chat gets the raw receipts, and I will personally report your undeclared rental income to the state tax compliance board. Have a good night. I closed the door and turned the deadbolt, the solid click of the lock sounding like a final verdict. The digital silence that followed my porch confrontation was the most peaceful sound I have heard in years. Chloe didn't file for a partition sale. By 10:30 p.m. that same evening, the Echo Lake Eco Wellness Sanctuary listing vanished from the Airbnb platform entirely. The threat of a forensic financial audit and a potential state tax investigation had acted like a complete systemic shutdown to her entitlement. The extended family network tried to initiate a second wave of emotional manipulation on Wednesday morning, but my husband and I quickly neutralized it. We didn't post an angry rant. Instead, we sent a brief professional message to the family group thread containing a single screenshot of Chloe's active Airbnb listing showing my private bedroom advertised for $320 a night. Below it, I wrote, Chloe turned our grandfather's cabin into a high-volume commercial hotel without my knowledge, letting random strangers into my locked bedroom for 9 months. To protect the asset from zoning violations and structural liability, her master access has been revoked. She can still use her personal weeks for family vacations, but the commercial business is permanently closed. The reaction from my aunts and cousins was an immediate, embarrassed retreat. Once the raw visual data of a stranger sleeping in my private bed was laid bare, the narrative of the cold, greedy corporate sister completely evaporated. Nobody wanted to defend commercial exploitation under the guise of family sharing. It is now Friday afternoon, and I am sitting on the cedar deck of the cabin, looking out at the perfectly still, glass-like surface of Echo Lake. The silver rental car is gone. The cheap lavender spray has been completely scrubbed away, and the natural, deep scent of pine and fresh water has finally returned to the air. My husband is down by the dock, fixing the hinges on the boat slip, while our son plays safely on the grass. The electronic smart lock on the front door flashes its quiet, secure green light every time we pass, a silent sentinel protecting the integrity of our family history. Chloe sent me a text message last night, no longer furious, no longer threatening, just small and defeated. I had to break my office lease today. I'm moving my business back to my apartment. I hope you're happy that you won this little war. I didn't reply. I didn't feel a surge of corporate pride, and I didn't feel a wave of vindictive vindictive joy. I just felt a deep, clean, and beautiful sense of relief. I didn't win a war, I simply protected a boundary. I saved a piece of my grandfather's soul from being sold off $10 at a time to cover someone else's reckless lifestyle. The cabin is quiet, our future is secure, and for the first time in a very long time, the air up here feels completely clear.